All right, Shalom. I'll start by giving all the praises, glory, and honor unto Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai Ba'ashem, Raruch HaKodash. Double honors to the elder apostles of the great millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect tabernacle of David. Now, what you just saw, was that biblically accurate? See, Esau, he'll always give you a straight up fantasy sci-fi, a fantasy fiction description of the angels. You know, you know, somebody with a Marvel versus Capcom imagination would depict the angels as looking like this. But this is not biblically accurate. And that, these Christians, they always come with that, that uh Disney fairyland dogma. All right. This is not describing an angel. All right. And there's many examples of the angel's appearances all throughout the scriptures. And yes, the angels at times they do appear, with a terrible countenance, terrible to look upon. But this kind of shit right here, this is straight up, this is straight up fantasy fiction. It is not a sound depiction of the angels, man. This caught my attention. I just clicked on it, and this is what I saw. All right, so just to get on point with it, because one of the things that I saw that was definitely inaccurate is you see the eyes on this creature, right? And what do you notice? The eye basically is is leprous. You telling me the angels got blue eyes? Well, that's what Esau was pushing during the Renaissance. The angels were butt naked. Or they had blue eyes. Flying around with wings with a bow and arrow. That was not describing the angels of the Lord. When the true angels appeared, which they appeared like men, they had the appearance of actual men. And when they appeared, you know, some of the prophets they bowed down, they fell down to their face, in fear. All right, I don't know what the hell this is supposed to be, but that's just one of the things that I noticed. A straight blue eye. Recessive genes would not be found in an angel, man. So more lies from these damn Christians. All right, so let's just go into the scriptures and show a couple examples of the angels, being not only witnessed but described. And the first one I want to go to was Ezekiel. And go to Ezekiel, the first chapter. Ezekiel 1 verse 1, it says, "Now it came to pass in the 30th year, in the 4th month, in the 5th day of the month, as I was among the captives by the river of Kabar, that the heavens were open, and I saw visions of the power. In the 5th day of the month, which was the 5th year of the king Jehoiachin's captivity," so this was in during the Babylonian captivity, "the word of the Lord came expressly unto Ezekiel the priest, the son of Buzi, in the land of the Chaldeans by the river Kabar, and the hand of the Lord was there upon him. And I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north, a great cloud, and a fire enfolding itself, and a brightness was about it, and out of the midst thereof, as the color of amber, and out of the midst of the fire." All right, and we know this is going into the chariot. That was the first thing that he witnessed, was he saw the chariot appear, out of the cloud. We know, according to this precept, let's go to Psalms 104 real fast. Let's go to Psalms 104 and 3. And it says, I'll start at 1. It says, Bless the Lord, O my soul, O Lord, my power. Thou art very great, thou art clothed with honor and majesty, who covers thyself with light as with a garment, who stretcheth out the heavens like a curtain, who layeth the beams of his chambers in the waters, who maketh the clouds his chariot, who walketh upon the wings of the wind. Verse 4, who maketh the angels spirits, his ministers a flaming fire. And that's who's actually in those vehicles, the angels. And they're ministering spirits of fire. So you have fire around the chariot. And that's, the glory of the Most High. Because the Lord himself is a consuming fire. All right. So that's what that's describing. They got it right on that in that movie Independence Day. Everybody looked up and they saw that dark cloud, and then out of that cloud, the chariot came out, and you saw fire engulfed around it. But they got that from this verse right here in the scripture. All right. So let's continue. It says, also out of the midst thereof came the likeness of 4 living creatures. And that's talking about the angels. These 4 creatures are talking about angels. All right, and let's keep going. And this was their appearance. They had the likeness of a man, so they all look like men. All right. And you know that the angels can appear like men, because it even tells us in Hebrews, beware of entertaining angels unawares. Sometimes you could be out there at camp, and a random person, a random, man can show up, and you don't even know who he is. And he might show up and he might, add to whatever the speaker is saying. And then, brothers would be like, hey, that's right. And then, before you know it, you look back up or you look around, he ain't there no more. But that might have been an angel that you just entertained. Okay? This shit right here, I mean, I don't know. I guess that's supposed to be Ezekiel right there on that cliff. And this is supposed to be what he saw. But this is this is the Marvel versus Capcom imagination of it, man. So going back, it says they had the likeness of a man, and everyone had 4 faces, and everyone had 4 wings. So all 4 of these angels have 4 different faces, and to show you that the Most High is way out, with his creation, man. All right, and you're gonna see that those 4 faces also had significance to them. They all had a representation, because the Most High, he can do what he wants, man. His imagination is out of this world. It says that in Isaiah, our thoughts are not his thoughts. Neither is his ways our ways. And you got fish in the water that got human teeth. You got fish that can glow, fish that can camouflage, that can disappear. You got all type of creatures the Lord then made. Okay, so the angels can have different appearances too. All right, but they didn't look like this though. Not to say that the Most High couldn't make something like that, but this is just their depiction. So continuing on, it says, and their feet were straight, and the sole of their feet was like the sole of a calf's foot, meaning the bottom of their foot appeared like a cow's foot. Like wearing, like when you wear them ninja shoes or them ninja boots. They have that little slit in the middle where it looks like a cow's foot, or like it's a cloven footed shoe. So that's pretty much what Ezekiel saw in the appearance. And they sparkled like the color of burnished brass. because they were brown, dark brown in color, just like it describes Yahushai when you read Revelation, the first chapter. All right, it talks about how when John the Revelator actually saw the Lord, when she was, of course, bowed down to him, he pretty much saw, his feet. Of course, he was wearing sandals. Let's go there real quick. Blue letter always doing that. So let's try this again. And let's go to Revelation 1. Revelation 1, verse 13. And in the midst of the seven candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with the garment down to the foot, showing you that his garment was down to the foot. He didn't have a t-shirt with fringes on it, and girt about with the paps with a golden girdle. All right. And all the heavenly creatures, they all are decked out, man. All right. They all have a glow to them, and they all have, golden ornaments and, girdles. They're decked out, man. All right, because they all represent the Heavenly Father. All right. It says his head and his hairs were white like wool, or white in texture, as white as snow. All right, white in color, and his eyes were as the flame of fire, and his feet like unto fine brass, as if they burn in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters. So we know that's describing a dark skinned man with a white woolly afro hair, and that's what he saw in the vision. All right, and this was Yahushua in his glory. So if Yahushua looked like that in his glory, what do you think the angels look like? All right, the angels are sons of the Most High. They're just in angel form. So they have the same likeness as the Father. All right, when you go to Daniel 7 and 9, it describes the Heavenly Father as having hair like pure wool. Daniel 7 and 9, I beheld till the thrones were cast down, and the Ancient of Days did sit, whose garment was white as snow. So they're all clothed, man. All right, they all have a garment on them, and the hair of his head like the pure wool. His throne was like the fiery flame, and his wheels as burning fire. All right, so let's go back. Matter of fact, let me go to Daniel 10 and 6. 10, 5, and 6. Yeah, Daniel 10, 5, and 6, it says, Then I lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, a certain man clothed in linen, whose loins was girded with fine gold of Uphaz. So he had the gold girdle, just as described in Revelation 1. And his body also was like the beryl, right? And his face as the appearance of lightning, or the brightness of his countenance, right? Because Yahweh Shai and the angels, they have wisdom. It tells you that in Ecclesiastes that you know uh, wisdom makes a man's head to shine, his face to shine, right? It says in his eyes as lamps of fire, and his arms and feet like in color to polished brass. And when you look it up, it actually means burnished bronze. And Jake, dark skinned Jake, we have that. Well, I'm actually light caramel complected, but you got the dark skin brown Jakes. There's a difference between the Hamite dark skin and a Jake dark skin. Ham got that crispy, ashy as brown, but Jake, we have that glow, that brown that actually shines, man. It glitters. Like when the sun hits the skin, it shines, man. It has a glow to it. So the Lord actually has that shiny dark brown complexion. All right, looking royal. All right, we don't have that, because Esau, he'll have you thinking that the Lord was leprous and had leprosy of the eyes, man. The Lord wasn't leprous, man. He didn't have recessive genes, and the angels don't have that recessive look. They don't have red skin with blue eyes. They look far from that. All right, and it says, "And the voice of his words like the voice of a multitude." So let's go back and let's read. I read 7. Let's read 8. It says, "And they had the hands of a man under their wings on 4 sides, and they four had the faces and their wings. Their wings were joined one to another. They turned not when they went. They went every one straight forward." Because their movements are different than ours. Or they're not limited to the just the movement of the physical, the human. They can move however they want, and mainly because of their nature, they actually hover. So they can hover to the left, to the right. They can hover forward. They don't have to turn around. They can hover wherever they want. And it says, as for their likeness of their faces, they had the face of a man and the face of a lion. So they have the intelligence, the wisdom of a man. The face of a lion, meaning that's what he actually saw. Because it said that they have 4 faces. They had the face of a lion. All right, and we know that the lion is also significant. It represents the courage. All right, the angels are mighty, man. All right, they had the courage of a lion on the right side, and they four had the face of an ox on the left side, and the ox is known for its strength and its power. And we know that the angels are mighty. They're mighty in strength. All right. You can do the research on the strength of an ox, man. That's why when an angel came down, you was afraid. You had an encounter where you had that wicked dude Heliodorus. He got visited by 3 angels, and they beat the snot out of him, man. They beat him till he was blind. Okay. I'm gonna have to go to that right after I read this verse, since I mentioned it. It says they four also had the face of an eagle. And he actually saw an eagle, but it also represents the fact that, they can fly. They have the flying abilities, man. And guess what? When the Lord changes us, we're gonna have that same ability to fly as well. Like it tells you in Isaiah, was that 30? Actually, Isaiah 40, I believe. Isaiah 40 and 30. Yeah, Isaiah 40, verse 30, it says, "Even the youth shall faint and be weary, and the young men shall utterly fall." Meaning we ain't gonna have, the might that we used to have. Going back to the ancient world, we were mighty men. We had more strength, and we can, fight in battle for long periods of time. You know, right now you fight for like 2 minutes. You go, you go head up, you catch that fade. You out of breath in like 2 minutes, man. You got to condition yourself. You got to basically train yourself to gain that stamina and that endurance, or you gonna gas out and fall out, man. Well, when the Lord renews us and changes us, we're gonna be given that divine strength. All right, and that's how we're gonna be able to take over this world. It says, verse 31, "But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint." So we're gonna have the strength and ability of the angels when the Lord changes us, when we become extraterrestrials. All right, so brothers and sisters gonna be able to run as far as they want. They'll be able to fly wherever they want to fly, and you won't get tired. So going back, verse 11, it says, "Thus were their faces, and their wings were stretched upward. Two wings of every one were joined one to another, and two covered their bodies. And they went every one straight forward. Whither the spirit was to go, they went, and they turned not when they went." So basically, they were in control of their direction. Basically, wherever their spirit tells them to go, they all go. And then guess what? The chariot follows wherever their spirit goes. It does whatever the chariot does whatever the spirit says. All right. As for the likeness of the living creatures, their appearance was like the burning coals of fire, and like the appearance of lamps. All right. And it went up and down among the living creatures, and the fire was bright, and out of the fire went forth lightning. All right, because the chariots, in which the angels control, they have the ability to send out rays of light, beams of light, and that's that lightning in the sky. And people get terrified when they see it lightning and the thunder. All right, well that's part of the glory of the Lord. And every time you see um hurricanes and tornadoes, you see like a lightning flash before it. You better believe there's angels or an angel in that tornado or in that hurricane, and they always capture that. They always seem to capture like a slow motion of a hurricane or a tornado or something, and they'll always capture there's some type of flying vehicle right up above it, and they never can explain what it is, but that's because it ain't given to them. They don't know. If you want to know those things, you gotta have it broken down by the prophets. The prophets know, and it's all by the Spirit, man, the inspiration of the Most High. It says, "And the living creatures ran and returned as the appearance of a flash of lightning. Now, as I beheld the living creatures, behold, one wheel upon the earth by the living creatures with his four faces. The appearance of the wheels and their work was like unto the color of a beryl, which that's like a greenish color. And they four had one likeness, and their appearance and their work as it were a wheel in the middle of a wheel. So it was like a chariot within a chariot. All right. And they think that, like when you go right here, they think that this is what Ezekiel was describing. You know, these are rings with recessive blue eyes on them. I don't know where they got that from, but that's definitely not in the scripture. All right. It says, when they went upon their four sides, and they turned not when they went. As for their rings, they were so high that they were dreadful, and their rings were full of eyes round about them four. And this is why they put those literal eyes all around, what they call it, the wheels. But that's not what it was. All right, basically the eyes were basically the windows of the ships, the two ships. Because hey, we've always seen um there's times when you'll see a big bright chariot up there, and then all of a sudden they separate from each other. So you saw that it was actually two angels actually interacting, or they were both together. And when they separate, you'll see that it was actually two instead of one. So that's pretty much what Ezekiel saw. So that's why he said he described it as a will within a will. But he said the rings of it, meaning the edges of it, because we know that the chariots are circular. Around the chariot had eyes, which were windows. That's basically what he's describing. All right, not this shit right here. A bunch of blue eyes all around it. Get the hell out of here with that. All right, it says, and when the living creatures went, the wheels went by them. And when the living creatures were lifted up from the earth, the wheels were lifted up. Whatsoever, whithersoever the spirit was to go, they went. Thither was their spirit to go, and the wheels were lifted up over against them, for the spirit of the living creature was in the wheels. All right. So basically, their spirit is in sync with those chariots, just like on that movie Avatar. You know those dragons that the avatars were dried, and they would take um their hair, and they would basically put it into, I'm not sure what it was, but the things that they rolled, they would actually, put it into that creature that they would ride upon, and they would actually have control over that creature. I'm not sure any brother that knows what I'm talking about. If you've seen the movie, maybe a brother can put it in the chat what those things were called. All right, but that's pretty much the same command that the angels have with the chariots, man. They're connected with the chariot. All right. And that's basically how they're going to be coming back, because they can come without the chariot, but they're going to actually come back in the chariot. That's why when you go to Acts 1, Acts 1 and Acts 1 and 9 is when the Lord ascended back to the heavens. Acts 1 and 9, it says, and when he had spake these things while they beheld, he was taken up, and a cloud received them out of their sight. And while they looked steadfastly toward heaven, as he went up, behold, two men stood by them in white apparel. These were angels, so showing you that they come in the form of men. These were two angels, which also said, ye men of Galilee, why stand you gazing up into heaven? This same Yahushai, which was taken up from you into heaven, shall so come in like manner as you have seen him go into heaven. Meaning what? He's going to come back in the clouds. Okay? He's going to come back, and he's going to judge and make war. This is how he's coming. Isaiah 66 and 15, it says, for behold, the Lord will come with fire, and with his chariots like a whirlwind, to render his anger with fury and his rebuke with flames of fire. For by fire and by his sword will the Lord plead with all flesh, and the slander of the Lord shall be many. So them angels going to come down here and put in that work. Revelation Revelation 12, verse 7. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon. And that's NATO, the NATO forces. All right, Esau's superpower. And the dragon fought and his angels, because they're gonna have they mighty men, which are their soldiers, with their fighter jets and all that, and they're gonna lose and prevail not, neither was their place found anymore in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceived the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. They're going to be defeated by the holy angels. All right. And that's how they're coming. Even Enoch prophesied of that. Let's go to Jude. The Lord coming deep, man. Yeah, Jude 1 and 14, it says, and Enoch also, the seventh from Adam, prophesied of these, saying, behold, the Lord cometh with 10,000s of his saints, to execute judgment upon all, and to convince all that are ungodly among them of all their ungodly deeds, which they have ungodly committed. and of all their hard speeches which ungodly sinners have spoken against them. Right? So that's how they're coming, man. And we all gonna see it. But the angels, when they're not in those chariots, they appear like men. So let's real quick, because I mentioned it. We're gonna go to Second Maccabees. When you had some angels, beat the crap out of Heliodorus. For the Second Maccabees 3, and this was as get from taking money out of the temple, out of the treasury, being a damn sellout. This is Second Maccabees 3, and I'll start at verse 10. It says, "Then the high priest told him that there was such money laid up for the relief of widows and fatherless children, and that some of it belonged to Hyrcanus, son of Tobias, a man of great dignity, and not as that wicked Simon had misinformed, the sum whereof in all was 400 talents of silver and 200 of gold, and that it was altogether impossible that such wrong should be done unto them that had committed it unto the holiness of the place, and to the majesty and inviolable sanctity of the temple honored over all the world. But Heliodorus, because of the king's commandment given him, and said that in any wise it must be brought into the king's treasury. So at the day which he appointed, he entered in to order this matter, wherefore there was no small agony throughout the whole city. But the priests prostrating themselves before the altar in their priests' vestments, they had the ephods and stuff, right? It says, called unto heaven upon him that made a law concerning things given to be kept. Kevin, it's like things given to he kept, that they should safely be preserved for such as had committed them to be kept. Then whoso had looked the high priest in the face, it would have wounded his heart. For his countenance and the changing of his color declared the inward agony of his mind. In other words, you could tell when somebody's nervous. You know, you can tell when somebody did something, and then when they're confronted, they have a certain look about them, right? For the men who was compassed with fear and horror of the body, that it was manifest to them that looked upon him what sorrow he had now in his heart. Others ran flocking out of their houses to the general supplication, because the place was like to come into contempt. And the women girt with sackcloth under their breasts abounded in the streets, and the virgins that were kept in ran, some to the gates, and some to the walls, and others looked out of the windows, and all holding their hands toward heaven made supplication. Right? Then it would have pitied a man to see the falling down of the multitude of all sorts, and the fear of the high priest being in such an agony. Then they called upon the Almighty Lord to keep the things committed of trust safe and sure for those that had committed them. Nevertheless, Heliodorus executed that which was decreed. Now, as he was there present himself with his guard about the treasury, the Lord of spirits and the Prince of all power caused a great apparition, so that all that presumed to come in with them were astonished at the power of the Most High, and fainted and were so afraid. So here goes the majesty. The angels showing up, they just pulled up. For there appeared unto them on a horse with a terrible rider upon him, and adorned with a very fair covering. All right. They had the clothing that was very glorious, and ran fiercely and smote at Heliodorus with his 4 feet. So he stomped him out. And it seemed that he sat upon a horse, had complete harness of gold, was decked out. Moreover, the 2 other young men appeared before him, notable in strength, excellent in beauty. And mind you, these were so-called black men. All right. They look, masculine, but also they look very royal. All right. And comely in apparel, who stood by him on either side and scourged him continually and gave him many sore stripes. And they put the beats on him. And Helidorius fell suddenly unto the ground and was compassed with great darkness. But they that were with him took him up and put him into a litter. See? So, they had to show up because, that was a grievous thing that he pulled on Israel, because it brought misery to Israel, man. So them angels showed up and they beat the brakes off of him, man, stumped his ass out. But showing you how they appear. They appear as men, but they have, that beauty. They decked out. They have that fine apparel, man. All right. And there's many other, examples, you know, when angels, they appear and they appear in that glory, man, and they look fearful, but nevertheless, they appear like men. The angels that showed up to Lot's house, those were men. So this right here, this ain't accurate, man. This is some, fantasy fiction, Walt Disney, Marvel versus Capcom type of shit. And Esau always give a fucked up narrative about the angels. They have no clue. So I just want to set the record straight on that, as I do my response to this, and Lord willing, this was edifying. I'm gonna give all praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh Shem Shai. And until the next lesson, Shalom.